Well, good morning. My name is Ted Gardner, and I'm an interviewer for the Library of Congress Oral History Project that is so capably run by our wonderful library here in Cincinnati. Dennis Daly is our historian and our videographer, and we're talking today to Mike Kunnen. Mike Kunnen is a lifetime resident of Cincinnati, well known in the petroleum industry, better known to me as the Gas King, and Mike has done so many things in our city. Mike, you know we're going to be talking here, and you're going to get a DVD of this interview, which is nice for your family and so forth. So after you're gone, you know, they'll have it forever.
Yeah.
Where were you born?
They'd rather have money. Of course, you know that.
Of course.
I was born in 826 Considine in Price Hill, delivered by my uncles who were both doctors.
I'll be done.
And I lived there until I got in school. I went to Holy Family grade school, graduated, went to Elder High School. I majored in 3 sports, varsity sports, 2 of them when I was a freshman. I played varsity baseball when I was a freshman. I played varsity basketball when I was a freshman.
Gosh, so you were a Purple Panther, huh?
Yeah, I bleed purple, that's right. But anyway, I went to Xavier University on a football scholarship, grant and aid.
Oh, you did?
And
who was the coach at Xavier? Who was your football coach at Xavier?
Clem Crow, he was one of the 7 horsemen.
Oh, of course, Crowley, yeah.
His brother was the backfield coach, Emmett Crow.
Let's go back just a little bit because we want to talk about your family too. You had brothers and sisters?
I had 3 brothers, yeah.
3 brothers?
Yeah.
Wow. And they were all local?
Well, 2 of them were 4F. My brother broke his neck in 8th grade, and he did 4F. My other brother had emotional problems, and he was 4F. But my brother that was second in line went to UC and graduated from medical school. This is interesting. At the age of 23, 1 week before he was 24,
wow.
He graduated from UC Med School. Now I had a grandfather that was a doctor, 2 uncles that were doctors, 3 cousins. The Corsi Clinic Giles was married into our family, if you know the Corsi Clinic.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And they had Jerry Jansen, just died this past year. He was a cousin of mine. He was out in Mount Lookout for 46 years. And then Dick Reniker, he died 2 years ago. He was a psychiatrist in Hollywood. You know, so he was very well known.
That's a remarkable family. So your father was a doctor?
No. My father ran the National Lead Company, and when the market crashed, they came down on him. He was not the same denomination as the owners and bosses, so I don't have to go into that. You might not like that. Hear what I had to say about
discrimination there. Huh?
Yeah, a little discrimination. But he never got over it. It affected his whole life because he was a high salaried man. You know. But he did work. He worked under Bishop Albers here in the welfare department. There were 400 families on the front of Price Hill that were on welfare, and they called my mother more than they called the pastor of the church. And my dad later on went to work for HOLC. Do you remember that?
HOLC.
Homeowner Loan Corporation.
Oh, sure, homeowners loan.
Roosevelt invented that.
Yeah, that came out of the NRA.
Yeah.
Sure.
And he saved a lot of people's houses. All they had to do was pay. I don't know why they don't institute that right now, because all they had to do was pay the interest. They didn't have to pay the principal. Mm-hmm. So it carried them through all the way up to World War II.
Sure.
So bringing up to date, the one side of our family was, I had an uncle, Nick Jansen, that was Jerry's father, who was very prominent in the Cincinnati Club down here. He ran the luncheons for 30 years. You know, you get 300 people. He was a food broker. And he sold Kroger's and Albert's and A&P and all those kind of people.
Sure. Well, that's very, very interesting, because I now that you mention it, of course, the Jansen family was very, very prominent as well as yours. There are certain dates and times in a person's life that you never forget where you were when you heard the news. And one we always like to ask here is, where were you and when you heard the news on the 7th of December 1941?
I was comfortably laying on my mother's bed. It was a week after we played St. Xavier High School for a GCL championship. I scored the only touchdown, 175 yards for the touchdown. And my mother came in and shook me and said, "Where is Pearl Harbor?" You know, well, being the student I know, I said, "I don't know." So from then on, we were listening to the radio, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody
That's all we had those days.
Yeah, that's right. And we had them all. My dad had.
It was wonderful.
Went from the battery sets to the crystal sets to the fall to Crosley, and we got a big console model in 37.
Yeah.
Three
Yeah.
bands.
So let's see now. What year were you born?
23.
23. Okay. So you were well aware of things by the time
sure.
41 came along.
Oh, we had some pretty
18
good
years old.
some pretty good teachers at Elbert. Father Elbert was prognosticating that there was going to be a war a couple of years before it happened.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so
Sure.
we were pretty conscious of what was going on.
Yeah. Well, you know, that was...
I might tell you one story, which 39, which you asked for things you never forget. We went up to Coney Island on German Day, and we went to Moonlight Gardens. You've been there.
Sure.
They got a German gathering there, and they're all in there singing Deutschland, Deutschland, über alles.
To be honest.
And my mother got hysterical. She started cussing. I never heard her cuss before. She's an Oldenburg girl.
Mother?
If you don't like this country, go back to Germany. And that's what she told me. But they were singing Deutschland, Deutschland, über alles, and she didn't like that.
Oh,
That was in 39.
yeah, I remember those days. There was a lot of German sentiment.
German-American Fund was active here in
Oh, yeah.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, we had it out on the West Coast, too. I remember it very well. They'd march down the street, you know, in their Nazi-like uniforms and everything. It was terrible. Well, so there you were, 18 years old on Pearl Harbor Day, and what did you foresee for yourself, and what did you do?
Well, they accelerated the course at Xavier University. So in December 2nd, 1942, I enlisted in the Army. Now, there are all 550 of us that enlisted in various branches, but 550 out of 600 is a pretty good number.
I'll say.
And we all went to the accelerated course, which ended in early April. And we went to Fort Thomas. From Fort Thomas, we spread out all over the country. I was ROTC student at Xavier, but that didn't mean nothing.
No.
I don't think my IQ, I was too young. Because everybody you run into is politics, you know. And the people that are, what can you say, you know?
I know.
It's tough having somebody that's not educated telling you what to do.
It really was. Yes, I should say. Well, then from Fort Thomas, where were you assigned?
We went to Fort Knox.
Oh,
Fort Knox took some basic training,
armored.
and we had 17 weeks of basic training, bivouac, that sort of thing. And I was in officers' non-com school one hour. Guy comes running in and says, "We're closing this school as of now." That's the end of the school. So I wound up I should have stayed with my company guys, as they all went to a new outfit and got rank. I didn't get nothing but a pat on the back. And we went to 90 of us guys were in that group, 90 college students, and we went to Camp Polk, Louisiana, to the 742nd Tank Battalion.
747. How about
I
that?
can tell you the history of that if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, you'd probably never been near a tank in your life, had you? Before
No,
that?
before that, I never knew anything about tanks. I had automobiles, and, we
Sure.
knew something about engines and stuff, but being around a tank is a new thing that all of us, not just me.
Well, tell us about that.
But we wound up going to Polk, and in Polk, we had maneuvers and campouts and that type of thing, and we, early in the spring, we moved to Fort Benning. Fort Benning, the 742nd Tank Battalion, started a baseball team. So the manager was a captain, and I was the only private on the team playing left field. So he comes to me and says, Kunnen, I'm going to ask the colonel to make you a corporal so we can stay in left field. So
Gotta have corporal.
I said, that's a great idea. So he comes back and tear-jerking about half a day later and says, here's 2 3-day pass and run concurrently. Go home and visit your family because this colonel don't like college men. He never went to college.
Oh.
And you're going overseas. The instant you come back, you're going to be in. That was true. I came back. They had my duffel bag at the train station.
Ready to go.
So I got on the train and went to Washington, D.C., Fort Meade. And I had a good potential career in baseball. Hank Gowdy from the Reds ran that league down there. So everything was real nice. But I wound up going to the Fort Meade from Fort Benning. And I went from Fort Benning, or Fort Meade, to Camp Shanks, New York. Mm-hmm. And then from Camp Shanks, New York, we went and got on the boat, the Aquitania.
Oh,
Now, the thing that I didn't understand about that is prisoners of war that were Italian, they got more liberty than these guys. Mm-hmm. I'd like somebody like you to explain that to me. They were able to go into New York and fraternize and do all kind of things. And we were restricted to the area. Yeah.
Well, they must have had some influence because, of course, there were a lot of Italian immigrants in New York City, in those days. I suppose somebody prevailed.
Yeah, somebody had.
Of all the darn things.
Yeah, those are things that I noticed,
Sure.
You can't help but notice it.
Well, now, going across the ocean on that big ship, Aquitania was a big
Biggest
liner.
British ship they had, huh? I ate one meal down in the gully, stuff on a shingle, you heard that.
Oh, yeah.
Never ate another one. I bought a box of Hershey bars, and I ate Hershey bars for the next 7 days. That's how long it took us to get to Glasgow,
Yeah.
Scotland.
Okay, so you went up north to Scotland.
Yeah.
I see. That was interesting.
And from Scotland, we went south to Bristol,
Okay,
which was north of Liverpool.
sure.
And I was 3 days there, and I went right over to France. But my buddy, Jack Speaker, he's from Delhi. His father owned a big farm, retired at the age of 38. But Speaker got killed outside of Liège, Belgium. He didn't get in the war until the Battle of the Bulge. And the tank got hit. He bailed out, and they got him with a burp gun.
Oh, gee.
His mother was very upset about that because he was only in combat 1 week.
Now you were with, this was still that tank outfit, the 746?
Sure. No, the 709.
That
I
was long
said,
gone.
That's gone. I left that in Fort Benning.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I joined the 709 Tank Battalion in early July of 44.
44.
They landed D+20, and they had 1-star general in the 8th Infantry directed. Our company lost 15 out of 17 tanks
Good.
because he didn't have the ability to know that when you run a tank out and the terrain is soft, you know what happens to it? It sinks,
Sure.
and it becomes stationary target. So we lost 15 out of 17.
Good gravy. Oh, boy. Well, now, when you went across the channel to France, what kind of an outfit were you in?
Replacement depot. You know, that's another little side story.
Yeah, tell
When
us.
we got on boat, the guy says, nobody takes their low cuts. You know, they're forbidden. So everybody took their low cuts.
Sure. Screw you.
So we get first thing they say when we land, throw your low cuts over in the pile. You know, somebody made a fortune. As they took our low cuts away, they were all new. We didn't wear them very often.
Sure.
And I could never understand where in the hell all that money went for them shoes. Probably to the King and Queen of England, I guess. But they got everybody's low cuts. And we had another one. I can't get into that because it's called racism. We had one guy get, somebody went in, he passes the corner, and there's a beautiful blonde embracing, what's her name? And this guy found out that he was calling himself an American Indian.
Oh,
You might cut that out there because
passing himself off, yeah. That was a romantic thing that Europeans
didn't
loved.
know. Yeah, they didn't know anything about what they were doing.
I'll be darned. Well, then, so then you, where did you go into France?
Omaha Beach.
Omaha Beach.
Walk 100 yards and there's an MP saying, another 100 yards. You get another 100 yards and there's an MP saying, another 100 yards.
Yeah.
Walk another 100 yards, there's an MP saying, we had 78-pound packs.
Wow.
And I don't know how many
Heavy stuff.
miles we went, but we never went 100 yards.
What kind of rifle did you have?
Me, I had a Thompson submachine gun, a carbine, 30 caliber.
Yeah.
I had Belgian 38, a 45 automatic, a grease gun, you name it, I had it.
My gosh. You had everything but a bazooka.
I made it my business. Anybody needed a weapon,
They came to you.
yep.
I'll
They're
bet-
laying all over the place.
Sure.
I lost we jumped off one time. This is in Hurtgen Forest and piled all our stuff under a tarp. We come back to get our stuff, it's gone. Grave registration took it. In there is my wallet, American money, driver's license, cards and everything.
My gosh.
They took it. Now they can't say they didn't know who it belonged to because gold print on the wallet said John A. Kunnen, Cincinnati, Ohio. So somebody confiscated that and made off with the loot.
Sure.
But at that time in Hurtgen Forest, I was a dealer in.
Well, now tell us about that. That was a terrible battle at Hurtgen Forest.
Yeah, well, there wasn't a tree in Hurtgen Forest that wasn't nicked with shrapnel.
Yeah.
Every place you looked, there was a chunk gone. You know, now the biggest injuries came from minefields. You know, somebody had an explosion down 50, 75 yards, and two guys would go down, and they got blown further than the guys that got blown originally. So you had a consistent happening of people getting destroyed with them damn landmines, you know.
Sure.
And in order to stop the tanks, they would bury them things, regal mines. You know what they were? Regal mine. They'd pancake them 3 deep. There's enough force to blow the track off any tank.
Boy, death
And
is
once they made it stationary, why, you were a sitting duck.
sure. Did you have any buddies in your outfit from Cincinnati?
Yeah, Jack Speaker was there for a while. Or a guy named McKee from Western Price Hill. But he lived through it and he went home. But the funniest thing happened to him, 1 year after he came home, he got run over on the Western Hills Viaduct, killed in an automobile accident.
Oh, my goodness.
But
I'll never-
that's the only other guy that was in the 709 that I knew. You know,
Now, did you, you made sergeant, did you?
I what?
You made sergeant?
No, I never made sergeant. I made PFC by act of Congress. I was a real good friend of the lieutenant. He was Catholic and I was Catholic, we used to ride miles to go to church on Sunday, wherever we were. Well, we were buddies, so he kept saying to me, you want to be, I know, my IQ never meant nothing to you people. Anything I did never meant nothing, so I don't care about getting any kind of rank.
I'll be darned.
I appreciate it, just let me be.
Yeah.
And he was a very conscientious guy, and I could tell you some stories about him. But he eventually got killed because of his conscientious.
Is that so?
Yeah, we're going into Hurtgen Forest. Kleinhow and Hurtgen were adjacent to each other. So we're going to take Kleinhow. And he wouldn't take us nowhere unless he knew where he was going. So he gets off on foot and goes up and reconnoiters. In the meantime, one of the one-star generals come in and said, where is the lieutenant? He's up reconnoitering. Reconnaissance. He says, he's pending court martial because he left his platoon. So here comes another lieutenant that was previously with our outfit. He takes over the platoon. So I'm the gunner in that tank. Happy Bond from Philadelphia, 38 years old, had more money than all the officers put together. He kept telling me. Anyway, he says to him, you lieutenant, are you the gunner? I said, yeah, I'm the gunner, lieutenant said to me. He says, the guy in the back tank there, the bomb gunner, says he's sick. I says, you go back there and take his place. And this guy here, your tank commander, is going to be my gunner. So we go up the road, and as soon as there's a hill here, see? As soon as they get past the hill, the tank hits the minefield, blows the tracks off, and that Lieutenant Truman Sylvester from Louisiana, hell of a football player in his time, he bails out of the tank, takes one step, and blows his leg off at the ankle in a foot mine. So we backed off 150 yards, and he winds up laying in the gutter. He had sense enough to put a tourniquet on his leg. And the 88 hit that tank, and the part of the tank almost severed the arm of a guy named Francis Healer from Texas, Muleshoe, Texas. But anyway, in the process, the driver, Horace Barrett, says, traverse the turret so I can open the hatch to get out of this damn tank. So he's in the process, Bobby Bond, this guy, Walter Bond, he's traversing the turret, another 88 hit and cut him right in half. So Horace Barrett climbed over the top of him, and he's the only guy who got out of that tank that wasn't critically hurt. But three of us went up to get the Lieutenant Truman, Sergeant DiNardo from Coachburg, Pennsylvania, and a guy named Murdoch Mitchell from Buffalo, New York. And I was holding his leg. That was a medical family, you know.
Sure.
I said they might be able to do something with this.
Yeah, boys.
But they didn't do anything with it. But we alternated every 50 yards. We changed because this guy's a 200-pound guy. And we're trying to run him back to the aid station. So we wound up running him back. And he's down there laying on the ground, and he's trying to tell the damn general, you better think of a better way to go up there because you can't get a better way we went. And he, I don't pay no attention to that man. He's suffering from shock. You know, so he knew more about it than the general, I'll tell you that. But anyway, we wound up, they had to blow that tank off the road. The engineers came up. I don't know whether they took Happy Bond's body out of there or not, but they created a crater in the roadway that they had to span with a bridge to blow that tank out of the way so they could take the 5th Armored and go past there. But the Hurtgen Forest, the village of Hurtgen changed hands 7 times.
Good grief. Terrible.
So it was...
yeah, I've read about that terrible campaign.
One time I got a Belgium 38, you know, and I carried it just comfortable in my hand. And I just got it, and I had loaded the clip. And I went around the back of the farmhouse, and boom, boom, I was filing it out. 2 medics come around. They thought I shot myself. They were going to carry me out, but I didn't. All I was trying to do was familiarize myself with a gun that I just got from a German.
So you got up pretty close to the enemy, huh?
Enough to kiss him on the cheek. I had 6 Lugers at one time. I sold them all.
My golly. You were a real rag picker, weren't you?
Well, people wanted them damn things. I had no use for a
know.
German Luger.
Was
They
it
were,
difficult?
they were worth $100.
Wasn't it difficult to bring them out and bring them home?
Oh, you went around that. You couldn't bring more than you earned. You earned $54.
Yeah.
And the way all the GIs got around that, I just bought myself a money order, stuck in my wallet.
Right.
When I got back to the States, I went to the PX and cashed $1,800 worth of money orders. But that stuff accumulated. I played a little crap,
Right.
but I never played with any of these guys that were sharpshooters. I had more sense of that. But you do things you never do if you weren't away from home. Well, I was guilty of some of that.
What's going on? Did you get up against the Panzers?
Yeah.
The German?
The only ones, my tank never did, and we had more sense than that. The Panzers were big armored tanks. The only thing that you take on a Panzer was the Air Force.
Yeah.
And I've been in quite a few places where Air Force dropped a bomb down on a tanker. The guy in the tank went 200 feet, landed on top of a tree.
Wow.
And they did that in quite a few places. But you would never take a M5A1 Stuart Dank and try to engage a German Tiger. That's absolutely nonsense.
Right. Now, the Hurtgen Forest battle preceded the so-called Battle of the Bulge, but that came up pretty.
Well, I can tell you this.
Yeah.
I went from Brest, south of Paris, that's where I told you about the train robbery, and I went straight to Luxembourg. And in Luxembourg, 8th Infantry was trying to hold a 26-mile front. Now, you know anything about the Army, 26 miles is not a divisional front. 5,000 yards is a divisional front. But we wound up stationary, and we had 5 tanks against all that Siegfried line over there. Well, I said to Lieutenant Ellis, I says, if they come over there with 15,000 men, my ass is going that way. Pardon my expression. But that's the way I felt about it, because there ain't no way we're going to stop a division with 15, 20 men,
Right.
Wind up in Niederfollen, Luxembourg, and that was November 17th, 1944. That was my 21st birthday. So I went up the road to a place called Klerf, K-L-E-R-F, which was a Nazi young'un camp. So we had a rest period there. So while I was there, I wrote my wife, who was now my wife, but my girlfriend, and my mother and father. They got the letter the same day that the Enquirer announced the Battle of the Bulge started December 16th. The first town wiped out was Klerf.
Good gosh.
So they thought I was a goner.
Yeah, right.
But what happened is I went to Hurtgen Forest up the road to replace the 28 Bloody Bucket, who had 35% casualties, and they came down to Luxembourg, and they were annihilated. They had to go back to France and reorganize the whole thing.
Wow.
But we wound up, if you remember where Mount Meade was in Bastogne, we were out here on a peninsula beyond those guys, sitting in Hurtgen Forest. But we wound up surviving because we were on 24-hour alert,
Did you know anything about the Malmedy murders?
No. We never they never circulated that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know why they didn't, but I'll tell you an incident. We built a hole, 10 by 10 hole, covered it with split logs, covered the cracks with spruce trees, put the dirt on the hole on top, put a canvas on top of that, lined it with blankets from fallen soldiers. So I'm sitting in there, and the guy throws a Coca-Cola and a Stars and Stripes. And so I open a Coke and I open the Stars and Stripes, and for Christ's sake, Bobby Hunchfire's leading the Big Ten, my teammate.
Oh my
Leading the Big Ten. The Don Mango, my other teammate, they were a year behind me in school, They didn't even know what was going on. Here I am in this hole over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I wound up finding out that I looked it up, and they want $90 an hour to research the Stars and Stripes to get that information. I was furnishing it for Hunchfire's family. But my daughter works for UC up there, for the president of the University of Cincinnati. She said, "Oh, I'll get it for you. Don't cost nothing." So she got the information and the material that I could go through and scan all these
Sure.
Stars and Stripes and try to find the article that my buddies were quoted in the paper. But that's an interesting sidelight that you're in no man's land, and these guys don't know the war's going on.
I know.
The interesting thing about that, I get off the boat on 7/11, 1945, and somebody's got a portable radio. And he says, "Hunchfire going around then for the Navy." What the hell did he say? That son of a gun is now he's playing for the Navy? Jesus Christ. But that's the kind of stuff, demoralizing.
Well, it was interesting in those days because it's hard for young people to understand today what it was like 60 and 70 years ago.
Yeah.
And because we didn't have television, we didn't have the immediate communications that we have today, and it was a very, very different way of life and so forth. Well, now, how far east did you get? Oh, wait a minute. Let me ask you about the Battle of the Bulge. Were you right involved in the Bulge?
Yeah.
Did you ever see General McAuliffe, the guy that said nuts to the Nazis?
Wouldn't know him if I saw him. I interrogated 200 Germans behind a brick wall, took all their razors and all their guns, and I put all the straight razors together in a box and gave them to our barber. He sent them home.
How about that?
But that's, as far as that went, they were anxious, at that time they were anxious to surrender.
Sure. Oh, they were.
They were getting...
Well, you must have felt pretty relieved when finally the weather cleared and our Air Force could come over.
Well, another little interesting sidelight. One of them guys that, bed check Charlie, he comes close to the terrain flying back to the front. So he did it several times. So the colonel says, "Everybody turn their gun around." Then somebody shows up. 57 guns are pointing at him. So they let him have it. If you were familiar with Mount Echo, if he went down into the valley, into the river,
Yeah.
he never got out of the valley. He went right into the hill across the road.
Oh my goodness.
He just blew apart. But, every fifth bullet was a tracer.
Sure.
So it looked like the 4th of July when you're firing
Yeah.
at those guys.
I should
But
say.
that was, part of a little thing you remember. Bed check Charlie didn't make bed check that day.
So then that was December in January of 45, and then you started continuing moving east, did you?
We went to Colmore. southern France,
In France.
and opposite the Alps, and we were supporting the. On the way, we stopped in Krefeld, Germany, and we put armor plate on 4 or 5 tanks in our platoon. So when we got down there, in order the tank without the additional plate would be safe, we put him third in line, follow the tracks of the tank and lead. And it turns out that that was a good idea, except it didn't work. The tank in the third in line hit the mine, blew the legs off of the driver, and blew the bow gunner in half. So it never, it never resulted in what we thought it could do.
Right.
But we did have additional armor on most of the tanks wherever we could find the armor.
Well, now, how about casualties in your outfit? Were they pretty heavy?
Yeah, we got, you can look in that book. We had, one of the things that I looked in there, I was an enlisted man. There was only 36 enlisted men in our whole battalion.
Really?
So we didn't have too many enlisted men.
Yeah.
They were all in the service for 4 or 5 years. And
Experienced men.
yeah, they were older, you know.
Yeah.
I had a guy that was a middleweight champion in Chicago, Obert Andia Rizzi,
No kidding.
and he was a quiet but pugnacious.
Good fighter.
Yeah, good fighter.
Well, that brings up a point of recreation, so to speak, during the war. And boxing matches were one of the most popular types of activities.
We never had anything like that. My recreation after the war, we were in Schweinfurt, Germany, and they were guarding 800 women, and they were checking them out. You know, you can't believe it. You know, they couldn't give away a pass to Paris. So stupid me. Guess what? I took a pass to Paris. But the idea was that these guys, when we went to Paris, we had a 7-day leave, you know, and I couldn't believe it, that nobody would take the pass, you know. We had even some SS troopers' widows were in that group, and we wound up, well, I don't have to tell you what occurred there. A lot of
A lot of
a lot of fraternization.
Did you like Paris?
Oh yeah, first thing I found out that there was 125,000 registered whores in Paris, and the Champs-Élysées was the main drag, and those girls that were walking up and down looked like movie stars. You know, they weren't what you would normally term a slut, looked like a pig or something like that. Now that wasn't true in the what they call that, Pig Alley.
Yeah.
That was the end of the world, that place. But most of them that were on the Champs-Élysées were very prominent, very all registered, I guess.
Sure.
I didn't check their felicity.
Now, what was the Army? What number? You weren't in the 3rd Army, were you? Under Patton?
You get the book out and you find out I was in about 4 different armies.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. That's great. That's great. Any more funny experiences you can think of as you were moving around northeastern France?
Well, oh, yeah, I'll be coming to me when certain, you know how things do. Something reminds you of something and you think
Right.
about it.
It triggers your memory.
And,
That's right. Well, now, so we're looking at, say, late winter 1945, and about spring in Northern Europe was about to come about. What was the situation with your outfit? I mean, did you have heavy rain?
In Hurricane Forest, there was 5 inches of snow.
That's what I wondered about.
and they put the mask on your face, and your breath froze to the mask.
Wow.
And I had said to the supply sergeant, who was a buddy, he's got a beach house in Florida now, nice guy. But I didn't see him for 30 years in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I said, Mario Garcia, we're in the hell are my Arctics. You know, he was going to get everybody Arctics. And he never got anybody Arctics. You know, so we didn't get, I was wearing shoes out every other week as I boiled them against the damn can that we had, you know. They rotted out.
Gosh.
But that weather was very difficult. I'll tell you, this is one. You won't like this one. You can cut it out if you want. Fire break down and looking over the Roar River. The Homelite wouldn't go, and I couldn't get the engine to start because I couldn't charge the battery enough to turn the engine over. So I go back up to a maintenance guy, and he says, I ain't going down there. Are you crazy? Aerial bursts all over the place. I said, well, you stupid son of a... You're supposed to help us out. That's your job. What the hell are you here for? Oh, he said, I said, you got a battery? Yeah, there's one right there. So I said, well, you're going to pay for this. As I went over to the tree with all the wires, I hit my knife, cut me out 4 pieces of 12 wire, and I discommunicated somebody, I know that. And I wrestled that battery, and I dragged that damn thing a half mile down in the forest so I could jump start the tank. But this guy, he wouldn't get off of his duffus. Because there's aerial bursts down there, Kunnen. What's the matter with you? No kidding. But those are the kind of things that you don't forget either.
Oh, I know it. And you know, the Americans, with a pretty general good sense of humor, you know,
Yeah.
and able to overcome bad situations. You talk about the bad weather in the Hurricane. Did you ever get frostbite or?
No.
Or
Well, I did. I accumulated socks from everybody else's mud bag. And I changed my socks, threw the other ones away and changed them, put them
Sure.
almost on a daily basis, sometimes every other day.
Right.
But I rub my feet, and I come from a medical family, remember?
You got.
And I didn't have to go somewhere to
Strong,
find out.
strong background, yeah, I should say. Well, how far did you get into Germany before the end of the war?
We went into Czechoslovakia,
Oh, you Czechoslovakia.
and we finished in Osh.
Down south, yeah,
The Russians were down the road 100 yards.
yeah.
And Patton at that time was saying, let's go get them son of a bitches. I'll make them think they started the war. Everybody said, go home, Patton, you're drunk.
Yeah, yeah.
But we wound up going from Czechoslovakia to Schweinfurt. And we turned our equipment in Schweinfurt, Germany, in a park. We had 3 vehicles that were unauthorized and a couple of generators and stuff like that. They weren't on, you know, they weren't GI, so take them down the road and dump them on the side of the road. We didn't turn in anything that wasn't authorized.
Sure.
Although we had a lot of stuff. I had a radio, 2-way radio, 210, 120. Used it all the way through the war to get BBC at 9 o'clock at night.
No kidding.
Listen to the news.
Did you hear any of those propagandists like Lord Haw Haw and people like that?
I might have. I didn't put no faith in it.
Yeah,
It
right.
didn't bother me at all.
Well, I always, you know, I wish I had experience in the ETO, but I could never get transferred in the Navy to.
Well, in that incident, my lieutenant the next day after that happy bomb got cut in half, he takes us up and go around a bomb crater. You know, the bomb crater's got 4 foot of water in it.
Yeah.
I'm in the second tank, he's in the lead tank. And he says, left lever to the driver buttoned up, and the guy ain't buttoned up is him. So I don't know why he said left lever, because the tank went into the goddamn hole with one track, and when that happened, guess what happened? It flipped, and Lieutenant Ellis went to dive out and get out, and guess where the tank landed?
On him.
Right on top of Lieutenant Ellis. Wow. Now his gunner was a guy named Arnold Lean, and he wound up drowning. The driver and the assistant driver, they had their head against the floor of the tank, and the water was up to here. So I said, how in the hell did you find the lever on the escape hatch? I just reached up, and there it was. And we talked him out of the tank.
Oh, my God.
But we had 2 casualties there, and these 2 guys, I just recently got a hold of them. I didn't get to talk to him. In Alabama, his name was. I dropped bow gunner. He married and lives in Alabama. But he wouldn't respond to my telephone, you know. He did respond to my daughter. His daughter's a school teacher, and she just happened on our website, you know. And it mentioned the name that I mentioned his name, and it's one of the incidents that we went through. So that kind of stirred up their interest.
Yeah.
But he never came to our reunion.
Do you still have reunions?
Oh, yeah. This last year we were in Gettysburg, and we had Abraham Lincoln talk.
Oh, yeah.
And that was real clever.
Yes.
So this year they're going to have it in Eisenhower's farm, you know.
Near
So I'm talking.
Gettysburg there.
I'm talking to the bus driver. This guy giving me a story about Eisenhower bought this farm just before the war, and then he adopted and got this farm and this farm, and they got a gross farm here. Wait a minute. How did he get those other 2 farms? And he said, oh, I really don't know. Well, let me tell you. The head of city service bought them and gave them to him. Wow. Jack Anderson wrote that up as the most dimensional scandal in the history of the presidency. So the following week, Eisenhower gave it to the park board.
Yeah, right.
But I was
very generously.
Yeah, very generous. Yeah. But we're going to have this coming year. There's so few guys around that they're going to have a general reunion on Eisenhower's farm. Oh, you ever been up there?
I've been through there, and you know, the Gettysburg College there has a wonderful Civil War.
Oh yeah,
you know,
we were there the day it opened. That
apartment and everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
they have seminars and meetings and all kinds of book writers come in there, you know, and lectures. Well, I would imagine that you are interested in American history. Have you been as a lifelong American history buff?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Where it concerned my family, you know.
Sure.
Oldenburg, everybody, my great-grandfather's sister was one of the nuns that founded Oldenburg down there.
Oh, really?
And from that standpoint, my daughter did some research on all that kind of stuff. And I was interested in tracing where we came from and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
But the history, American history is, you know, it's interesting.
Did the Cunnens come out of
Pennsylvania.
And originally from southern Germany?
Amsterdam. If you go to Amsterdam on a jewelry store, my cousin went over. It's got Joe Smith underneath. It's got Kunnen. So he goes in, cousin, we're related. You know, he said, what the hell's the matter with you? That Kunnen means can do. My name's Smith. Oh, you wind up with things like that.
Sure.
It's not a very popular name. You know?
I see. Were you in England very long before you went across?
3 days.
3 days only. Yeah. So you didn't get much of the English atmosphere.
I didn't get to taste all that pub.
Well, now, where did you wind up, and how did you get back to the States?
Well, from Czechoslovakia, we went to Schweinfurt. In Schweinfurt, we got on a train to go back to Le Havre. That was near Rouen, France. That's where Joan of Arc was killed. And my mail caught up with us, and my mother wrote me a letter, didn't want to tell me. Jack Meeker, my classmate, got killed. She said that was going to affect me. Bodies everywhere. One more ain't going to make a difference. But I couldn't believe it. She thought that, but she did. So I wound up going to Le Havre, and from Le Havre, we took boxcars down to Marseille.
Oh.
Down in Marseille, we guarded an outfit that was similar to the one at Indianapolis Speedway. You know, it housed all kind of oil supplies and that kind of thing. And we stayed there until the fall, and I was signed up to go to Switzerland for a 7-day leave. And the next thing you know, I looked on the bulletin board, and my name was on the shipping list to go home. Well, I wasn't going to Switzerland if I could get the hell out of there. You know, so at that time I was heavily engaged in officers' coats. You know, these straps, and every officer that left, I give him $50 for the coat, and he didn't want to drag it along anyway. And I had a job of running into Marseille, and I sold the coats for $100.
Not bad.
So I made an immediate profit of $50. And that's the way I took care of them officers.
Did you bring back a lot of...
I sold it all in Paris.
Oh, you sold it all in Paris.
Yeah, they told us at Le Havre that we were going to Pacific.
Yeah.
So I had a custom-made boots put on with pegs. You ever see them put on with pegs?
Yeah.
And Zeiss Icon camera. And I had dueling pistols. Looked like they came out of a Douglas Fairbank movie. And all of that stuff I sold in Paris when I got off of the truck, because I had a routine. See, I went to the barber shop, and I said to the guy, give me a fingernail job, a singe job, and a facial job, and all that damn stuff you can give me.
Sure.
So.
Well, you came back a wealthy man then.
I didn't come back a wealthy man. I came back a considerably interested man.
Yeah, I should say. Well, Mike, you've had a wonderful story to tell, and again, hearing you at Dater High School, I knew we just had to get you on tape here, and I was sure that you would like to have that record for your family. And they'll be able to see you. A copy of this is going to the Library of Congress Archives in Washington, and a copy is kept here at the Public Library of Cincinnati Archives. So you're out there to the public forever now. And we're just so honored to have had you here. God bless you and your family, and thank you for what you did. We're so happy that we had the opportunity to meet and greet and speak with Mike Kunnen of
Cincinnati.
Are you Price Hill? You're still Price Hill, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's
There's some confusion over that,
Yeah, East Price.
We get foreigners that come in here and don't know where they're at.
I know. Well, it's been wonderful, and we appreciate you and your sense of humor and everything, and God bless you.
It's been a pleasure, Ted.
God bless America.